So I'm just going to read a few poems that illustrate. I'm going to read a few poems that illustrate that affinity for those three groups that I mentioned. Dream of a loquat. Somewhere in the upper curl of the Italian coast, I am leaning over a rampart to pick a darker shade of orange gold loquat. It's a long way down to the sea. I reach for the simple truth. Some fruit is worth a fall. This one sweet and tart at the same time. This one out on a high branch with a view of the harbor and the anchovy boats that have just returned. I tell myself I am so close, it should be mine to pick. I am old by now, with my arms outstretched and my fingers grasping. It seems all I can do is hold this moment forever. So wonderful, we've had so many wonderful poets in the Twin Cities over the years, not the least of which was Richard Sully. And this is a poem about this wonderful poet no longer with us, called Smoke. After the tumor had been cut from his throat and the radiation had started to cheat his swallow, he told me how in the long middle of a winter night in Ward C, he got up craving a smoke, even though he no longer smoked. And he walked down a hall with his IV pole to a fire escape so he could stand outside and pretend he had gone there to draw on a cigarette. And once there, it started to snow, and at first he didn't see the other man who had come there for the same reason with his IV pole. But then, through the expanding steam of breath, it became clear my friend was not alone. He was not startled, but instead started talking with the other would-be smoker, as if this sudden gathering was a normal outing for both of them. The other man said he was dying of lung cancer, and my friend said he had had his last rites read 3 times, and maybe he was already dead, but the fact had not yet sunk in. The 2 men stood on a fire escape in St. Paul, Minnesota, and shared something in that unlit place. And I picture them now, wondering if they met again after they were gone. For by the end of their winter talk during a snowstorm, they swore they would talk soon and often. From my sister, no longer with us. In my old address book, you will find lawyers who will be chained to a bed of nails in the afterlife. My first minister who heard E.E. Cummings at Harvard read from his 6 non-lectures. My sailing crews, my neighbors who befriended or failed me, musicians, florists, real estate agents who I torched looking for a cottage on a dead-end street, former wives, rectal specialists, harbor masters, mechanics who never quit on a knock and a rattle, a psychic who invited me to Kenya to listen to lions mating, little hotels on the Ile Saint-Louis, directions to a box canyon in Sedona where petroglyphs have not yet been tattooed by witless hikers. Near the back yellowing pages where the spine shows a tearing away, there you will find the many apartments of my sister Ann White, who never laid claim to more than a nickel, and who looked like a top-notch Chinese scholar before she died, with a smile that swept over great distances, with a lightness that made her famous among the bird call residents at her last stop nursing home. A picture I drew of her face in the marginalia, her smile still true at the end, as if she knew that most of what we do here is move around, plead our case, make mistakes, get sick, ask for help. So we've got the tree, we've got the dead, and now we have an animal, and then I'll close with a tree. The old sea turtle saves my ass on a summer day in Minnesota. Mid-August, Minnesota sag, every flower freighted with more fade than it can hold. Everything that's given to the lag of heat will soon be gone. The hissing geese, the tilting coneflower, the devoured milkweed. All my life I have sought out turtles, walked them across sizzling highways, or sat with them as they buried themselves on the ocean floor. Why am I telling you this? I laid down next to my flower bed to soak up the dying color, and remembered swimming off Maui out to a curlicue of reef where danger thrives. There, I met a green turtle old enough to bear tumors around its eyes. We recognized one another, both sick but still swimming. Our eyes held strong. We sought out the salt distance of our lives come close. I turned back around and he headed out to sea. Or was it the other way around? And my last poem, and the last poem of the book. About that love letter to the earth. Every morning I rise in the dark to write another love letter. I write of the sprawling Russian sage at the end of my driveway, how the bumblebees stay with it until the pollen blows out in September. I write about sailboats that never leave their moorings, about brother-sister dogs from the pound, about kites, stone arch bridges, plumeria, fat uneaten eggplant, the goldfinch I once met looking for an island, and Amy who wanders our road looking for her room at the Starfish Apartments. I tell myself from the edge of my chair, the future of the human race is not set in the stone of our nasty and brutish ways. No matter the million dead ends we have laid down, no matter the fires and the fools who would take all the wreckage for themselves, I tell myself the universe is still looking out for this blue thread woven into a vast tunnel of stars. I know it seems silly to be writing such a letter in the dark, a letter few people will ever read, but it's all I know to do. Tell the earth, as long as I am able, I will keep coming back to my chair in the dark, to hunt, to wrestle, to pray, to open my eyes after sleep, and have a look around. Thank you.
It's arthritis. I had a professor once who said, whenever there is something physically off with you should tell your audience what it is, and then they're not going to think about it anymore, and they can see arthritis. I'm going to read 4 poems to give you a taste of the kind of stuff that's in this book. This first poem is from my book, The Widow's House, and it's called The Bottom Rung on the Social Ladder. Well, just above bingo, watching love movies on a Friday night alone. It's 1937. Young Cary Grant and Irene Dunn are luckily happily married in The Awful Truth until they split. What caused it isn't important here, just know that before the divorce, they have everything: love, money, sex, terrific apartment, maids, a non-interfering sophisticated aunt, an ultra-smart dog, Mr. Smith, liked even by dog haters. Who in a depression wouldn't want to be them? Then, the series Irene's mishaps. I nearly split my gut pretending we were northwest on the couch. And it's our Friday night date. You are looking at me to see if I'm laughing as hard as you, and I'm looking at you to see if you like this because I like this so much. But I'm crying because it isn't funny that I have to pretend. And I'm aching for Irene and Carrie to get together again when finally at the 11th hour, wily Irene plays her last card, so to speak, landing them in a mountain cabin. Well, they go to bed, separate bedrooms, but neither can sleep, and I couldn't either in a similar situation. My juices would be running, my tongue twisted like a pretzel over whether I should call him in. Meanwhile, the shutters are banging in a storm, a door's creaking, the camera pans a black cat, a cuckoo clock, all irrelevant, all red herrings to keep Carrie from jumping into Irene's bed. Though what keeps them apart gets them together. Nice paradox, use of device and object. But who cares about that literary bullshit? I want him sliding into her, finding her wet and marvelous, and I want them to feel each other in a way only sex can make you feel after a long absence. And I hope they do it, though anyone watching isn't exactly sure because the camera's eye swings back to that cuckoo clock. A mock German weather house where a man in lederhosen and a woman in a dirndl go in together on the hour, which is a nice way to say the F word. Thank you, special effects. If you were here, you'd be cheering, kiss her, kiss her. And I'd pretend it wasn't because Irene is so gorgeous, but because you love me. And we know the ending was going to be happy if postponed. And I know what was so awful in the split was awful if come morning they could never kiss alive again. Can you hear?
If you drop that microphone just a, that's great.
Better.
So that it's right in front of your mouth.
And stand your ground.
Don't move.
Chmielarz. All right, this is another kind of poem I like to write. It's from a newspaper article. And my own imagination. The 900-pound man, the fattest in the world. He did not wear shoes, had no shoes, for no shoes fit his monstrous feet, or held his monstrous weight, and besides he didn't need shoes in bed, nor do caterpillars in their cocoons, devouring every hour on their way to butterfly. While he ate, he felt light. He did not wear pants, not as we know pants. His were sheets sewn halfway up in the middle, and for a shirt, a third sheet cut like a poncho. Who could gather him in their arms? Who could get close enough to meet his lips, drawn and thin? His eating was a longing to stop time. He lost 600 pounds, had to pick up his loose flesh to walk or shove a leg into pants. A chattering pack of hounds, blue-gloved nurses and surgeons, met at his boundaries and filleted away bags full of flesh, saving the capillaries, bloody little creeks running right under the epidermis, peripheries he must not lose. Just think, the 900-pound man ate farther into oblivion than any human ever on this planet. His weight, the tiny country he'd made one about that. It's called New Water. All those years, almost 100, the farm had hard water. Hard orange. Buckets lined in orange. Sink and tub and toilet too, once they got running water. And now, in less than a lifetime, just by changing the well's location, in the same yard, mind you, the water's soft, clear, delicious to drink. All those years to shake your head over. Look how sweet life has become. You can see it in the couple who live here. Their calmness as they sit at the table. The beauty as they offer you new water to drink. This is very short. Where one becomes two. The old fox has died. Now his mate is alone. Now she must cross the river alone. Look, in the water, two foxes.
Thanks, everyone. Everybody else, I'm trying to give you kind of a brief flavor of the different types of poems that are in this book. So I will begin with a poem, and you hear all right back there? I will begin with a poem called Begin. Halfway to zero, the heart began to count its beats. A thumb knuckle made of itself the hinge between two worlds. At 8,000 feet in the middle of Sweetwater Creek, brown trout swam around his legs in the shimmering light beneath aspens. The air thickened with lint and the frenzied death of insects. Once again he found himself at the center of two great sufferings. Once again the line unraveling west for 1,200 miles to unspoken savagery at the shore. The line a muscle made across template of bone, a road, the line unraveling canyon by canyon, episode by episode through time. Once again the wreckage he passed, just getting to the edge of this wilderness, the tin hut glaring, the tin hut glaring. Halfway to zero, the mind had wanted to play along. He was only half responsible for the burning mountain sun. Half of his grief lay behind him in the yellow waterproof bag. If trout struck his fly, another world would be calling. Halfway through his life, he wouldn't know how to answer. Miles away, the mouths of those children kept tugging at their hooks. By that hour, a few cars would be going up and through the final layer of summit, through the 10-mile tunnel to a place where the other big river would begin. I have a couple poems in here that all, the titles of which begin looking for the man, ... And I think what basically they are is trying to see into the inner life of somebody else without trespassing, if that's possible. Looking for the man in a field. Would the man stand at the end of a knife, the turned up head of cauliflower? Would the man wipe sweat from his face, fold a red handkerchief for his pocket? Would he sit in the dust and shade beside his truck and laugh between bites of a sandwich? Would he whistle as long as the tractor starts? Would the man say a rosary for each row of grapes or lettuce? Would the man curse or befriend the sun? Would he become the movement of an arm, a leg? Would he think himself some other place, on a front walk where Marisol, Peter, or even Hector the good dog would greet him after the light had failed? Would the man burn to nothing, like morning fog in the rose? Would the man leave his shadow there? Would he walk back out of darkness like a ghost or like dawn? Would any word he is saying come from the dark, the light, or the vine? Did it find the man in the field? Did he and the field move inside each other until the word found his tongue? The invention of water. Their silence fills a mutual grief older than themselves. They noticed such weather in their parents, in the great models that came before even them. Each passing was a first death and a last. Everywhere and always, when they discover the other in the night, it's not a new body they find, but the oldest knowledge, whisper at the neck, tongue in the ear. Reader, don't compare their solitude with your own. Remember instead what new thing came to you once, old as your life on earth. Then go back from there to the invention of water. Admit, if pressed, your love of the world drowns ferociously and with gratitude in that sea. That under those early stars, it concentrates itself in the weight of a hand, the odd breath of another, finding you over and over again in the dark. The Oratory of All Souls is the name of a series of 19 paintings that the English painter Stanley Spencer made to illustrate a small chapel, a memorial chapel in the southwestern England. And you have to read that series, so I'm not going to read any of those, but I bring that up to say that he painted these paintings, and he titled them The Oratory of All Souls. They were about the lives of soldiers in World War I. And then the church itself started being called The Oratory of All Souls. And then I made some poems about those paintings, and I thought there was no other title that this book could have, because in a way, you know, even beyond those poems, they are about the songs of other people. So I have 19 poems about Stanley Spencer's paintings, but I have 5 or 6 poems that are riffs off of the paintings by the Minnesota painter Brian Frink. And this is one. He had a series called Memory of Water, and this is one of them. Memory of Water, Winter Sun. I'd lived a long way away from myself, nearly ready for owl or wolf, song without song, the frozen creek might sing. Where the blood begins, I don't care. No need to know grief's origin, to allow for its laying on of hands in the kitchen one blue dawn. Coffee steams in the face of the 10,000 things. And maybe, well, definitely one more, and maybe one little 6-line one after that too. American Story. It would be so Brooklyn of you to tell me you lived in Brooklyn. After a record thaw, the mountainside slid down onto the town of Thistle, Utah in 1983. When we rode our bikes in the national forest, we dreamed about racing the mad chase of bears. Our bells jangled against the quiet. Can the young ever be forgiven? We were so naive. In Des Moines, a man stopped in the middle of his own bank robbery to weep over the terrazzo tile. I'm sorry, he said. This is a turning point in my life. I don't want to miss it. You may think I'm toying with you. May wonder why in this tiny car I am driving to the Gulf of Mexico, to the recently rebuilt marina, and now to Wichita, where we await the vortex, now to the scorched ground of Montecito, where the tiny car of words will sink wheels deep into the ash. It would be so Los Angeles of me to tell you I was born there, that I ate at places you have only read about in a James Elroy novel, like C.C. Brown's, like Vincent Paul's. I saw the Baldwin Dam break open on live TV. I saw Gary Power's helicopter go down. I saw snow on Huntington Beach. I lived in Los Angeles so long they named an earthquake after me. Tell me your real name, my pink on your olive hand, my green eyes into your brown. We can begin again if we like. It's our birthright, the first American story.
Mm.
And I have time for this last little 6-line poem, which is another poem based on a painting by Brian Fink. And Heidi owns the painting. Lucky Heidi. How big is it, by the way? Is it like big, 3x5 or 2x4? Yeah. Anyway, this cover, which I really love, is based on that. And the name of the painting is Memory of Water, Shoreline. And that's the title of this poem and the last poem of the book. Who knew memory is concave? Who knew its tide didn't need us or our tiny boat, just to wash through and under it toward that beach, that beach. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. You guys were so good. I'll just read longer. We were so frightened by the letter we got from the person here. And so then we had to have a lot of discussion about, okay, you can read 5 minutes, and then Sharon goes, well, can we read 8? So we're being super dutiful. Anyway, never mind. It's great to be here. Last time I was here was with you, Pat, for Melanie Hoffert's publication reading, remember? Oh my God, that was great. Great to see so many of you. This is The Saint of Everything. It's from Lynx House Press, and Rich's book is also from Lynx House Press. We've kind of known each other, kind of drifting between Mankato and St. Paul for a long time, and Jay and I have known each other forever, and Sharon used to come to my classes all the time and teach my favorite book of hers, but all of her books are my favorites. Okay. So it's great to be here with such a beautiful crowd. This is the first poem in the book. This book started as basically a kind of insane kind of way. It was going to all be saints and all be murderers, and then it was going to be it's very organized. That all fell apart. So there's saints and murderers and many other things. I just want to say that. But this is the thief. He came into our home and found the ball of string I used to tie up tall flowers. And climbing beans and peas in the summer, he created an intricate web that crossed through the kitchen into the dining room and ended the web tied to a nail, hammered into the mantel where we hung our son's Christmas stocking. He chose from my bureau slips, bras, panties, cream-colored nylons that had been resting in their old-fashioned box waiting for the right occasion. He hung all these things from the string, and the forms made odd shadows in our home. In the basement, he went through all my photos in the dark room and chose his favorites, I think, and clipped them to the string with my clothespins. One was a picture of our son in a gleaming white t-shirt. In the photo, he was just 2 years old, the same smile that breaks and warms a heart now. He went through my poems and crossed out the ones he hated with black magic marker. He took our son's second favorite blanket. He took 2 pillows from the couch. He took all the cans of soup, the white and brown rice, the hammer, and the saw. He left a note saying, I am telling you how to live. Now live that way. The book does have quite a few paths through it, and as Jay said, yes, trees, animals, dead people. And as with Rich, a lot of painters come and go in all of my books. The painter kind of lives and breathes a lot of spirit into this particular book is Charles Birchfield, who's a whatever, doesn't matter. This is a poem called The Dream World of Memory. The woman fell from the ladder and her beauty sustained her, even as blood from her forehead and shoulder seeped into the white carpet. The visitor in the home knew nothing of the beautiful woman, her city, but wrapped her head and shoulder in towels and carried her to the car, sat with her in the emergency room, comforted her, stayed by her side. The dog lay by the side of the road, but she was brave enough, years later, to lift that dog into the front seat of her car and find a vet, even as she heard the dogs breathing slow. She drove with one hand on the wheel and one hand deep in the golden fur. Yes, this dog lived. Comforted by these memories, she built them as a fortress around later acts of cowardice. It was no use, though. Drama and injury and injustice surrounded her and forced her back into the lives of the suffering strangers, pushed her to reach her hands toward the broken animals she found there, and inside the dream world of memory she lived, coward, sometimes forgiven, brave, but never, she thought, through her own choice. A mysterious life, just like everyone else's. This is a poem called The Saint of Childhood. Says no to the dreamland tree. The saints in this book are, this is the Saint of Childhood says, what am I going to say? The Saint of Childhood says no to the dreamland tree. No to the shaking, no to the guarding of sheep, no to the lullaby and good night. No to sweet and low, no to the old mill stream, no. No to the curtains opened or closed, no to the nightlight shaped like a crescent moon, no to talk of tomorrow. No to four saints at the four corners of the bed, no to the land of counterpane, no to the murmur of older voices in the next room, no to the real linden tree outside the southern window, no, always no to the dreamland tree. And this is, for some reason, in our elementary school. I grew up in Bloomington. This is Westwood Elementary School, for those of you. For some reason, in our elementary school, dodgeball was called war. We played the game so happily, with such violence. Black eyes, sprained fingers and wrists. A ball snapped my head back and my body followed. Knocked out against the gym wall, I was so still. My best friend ran crying to the nurse's office as the game continued. What a gift, this wild, vicious game. All of us little kids in my suburb, and all of us, only some of us, knew violence at home. The doors closed, but here, on the court in a game we called war, we reveled in the primal instinct to hit, to hurt, to survive, to be finally alone, triumphant on the wooden floor. The nurse slapped me back to consciousness. Whatever dream I'd been having was lost forever. This is called The Heartland Where the Secrets Are. Most of the murders in this book, and the murderers, hardly any of the murderers are caught in this book. Also true of this poem, The Heartland Where the Secrets Are. The couple found the body caught in a fallen tree. She was not a toddler. She had the grown-up beauty of a 4-year-old. The couple who found her wept. They had covered her, hated the couple who made her. Dear little afterthought, dear little worshipped one. 12th of the 12, and only the second girl. They did not call the cops. One waded into the creek, pulled the little girl away from the arms of the tree, pulled the girl close, and handed her to the other. And that one lifted her and laid her in the hollow the deer had made. The girl's little blue sweater was held in place by a knife, piercing the sweater and the girl at heart level. The couple said a brief prayer and covered her with leaves. In the heartland, there are many murderers, and most go unnamed and free. The couple waited for the snow to cover her small body. This is a poem called After the Shipwreck. I said at my publication reading that I feel that I've yelled at 4,000 students in 40 years to write poems about shipwrecks. I think maybe 3 have. Bossy, but they never obeyed. This is After the Shipwreck. Paradise can't have people, so they all died. The wooden sides of the ship bleached in the sun, smoothed by waves, were salvaged by artists on their ways to another island. The paintings done on this soft wood have lasted over 400 years now. Curators feel their hands tingle, shake, when allowed to hang the paintings in their museums. The wandering artists died so long ago, just like the sailors before them. Not shipwrecked, no drama. They lived together, and one by one they died. They knew their best work had been painted on the wood from the ship, and though careless in so many ways, they protected the paintings, which hang in all the great museums, anonymous and brilliant. I'll end with the last poem of the book. I wanted to start with The Thief. I wanted to start with a very true poem and end with a very true poem. This is called One of the Old Songs. The guy walked past singing, "White bird in a golden cage," on a winter's day in the rain. One of the old songs. By the group, it's a beautiful day. Whatever songs the radio assigns me, whatever songs strangers sing as they pass me, those are my songs for the day. This is my creed, my gospel, my way of trying to stay in the world I was born into. I sang this song doing the dishes that night, and it felt right singing. White bird in a golden cage on a winter's day in the rain. It was winter, I was white, as I always would be. I understood myself to be in a golden cage, large enough to live a whole life in. I understood it was a beautiful day, and I lived the song in my body and my mind that whole beautiful day. Thanks. We're going up there to buy our beautiful books. We read so little, you'll want to buy all of them.
I think you should read one more.
I think I was over my time.
No, I want you to read one more. And I want to pick.
Bossy. And then we're going to be here for 3 more hours. Can't believe you came here, Murray. You crazy kid.
This is short.
Oh, yeah, this is short. This is very short. Thanks. This is called Returning at the End of Suffering. The deer, the spotted leopard, the sleek sharks, the maroon starfish. Yes, we were surprised. Then the Siberian tigers came through the broken forest, and then 2 girls, maybe 8 or 9. We walked toward them, making human assumptions, but they belong to the tigers now, and so we let them go. Choose your kingdom, choose your species. New rules at the end of suffering.